I actually came up. This is the thing. The whole thing about faithfully depicting real historical figures, if they were truly going for authenticity and, because it says here, it follows along, allowing you to learn about this incredible era while enjoying the game set in feudal Japan. Here's the thing. What if, instead of making Yasuke a full-blown samurai, which is very much based on conjecture. In fact, what would be historically accurate is we don't know that he was considered a samurai. We know that he was kind of treated like one by at least one person, essentially. Nobunaga was obsessed and fascinated by foreigners and foreign culture, so he was obviously really fascinated with Yasuke. And I actually compared it. I've compared it in recent streams to, like, he basically treated Yasuke like a zoo lion, where he gave him a place to live, he gave him a stipend, he fed him, he gave him, a small sword and all this other kind of shit. He gave him all these amenities, but like a lion in a zoo who has room to roam and is given toys to play with and given food and is fed and has his medical issues taken care of, he's still a prisoner in a zoo. And I feel like that's how Yasuke was basically treated, or felt like to Nobunaga. He was like this item of curiosity that he put on a pedestal and treated like a zoo, or treated like a zoo animal. And that's why at the end, nobody treated him like a samurai when Nobunaga died. Like, and honestly, Yasuke didn't treat himself like a samurai, because if he considered himself a samurai, he would have seppuku'd himself. And then when Adachi catches him, he says, Adachi gets asked by his servant or whatever, like, what should we do with this guy? Like, shouldn't we, force him to commit suicide? Or should we force him to commit suicide? And Adachi goes, well, the dog shouldn't be blamed for the faults of his owner. May he go back to where he came from with the Jesuits. And he hands him over to the Jesuits, and you never hear of Yasuke again, right? So Adachi didn't see him as a samurai, and Yasuke himself didn't really seem to see himself as a samurai. So why not play into that? If they wanted to be authentic with this, I know I'm going on for a bit, but this is important to me. What if, if they wanted to be authentic, what if instead of just making him a samurai who murders agents with perfect katana form to hip-hop Asian beats, what if they actually made him ambiguous in the game? What if you're playing as the Naoe, the Kunoichi shinobi other character, right? And as you're exposed to Nobunaga, you get exposed to this huge black man in Nobunaga's court. And Naoe's like, who the fuck is that? Why is he here? What's going on there? And then she realizes that, this guy's allowed to roam the town. He has a house that Nobunaga gave him. What's this guy's story? And then she gets to talking to him. And she finds out that he is actually a slave that was handed to Nobunaga. And he's like, yeah, I was handed over, and Nobunaga sees me as this fascinating thing. We get along, but in the end, I feel like I'm still a prisoner, despite being able to roam and all this other kind of stuff. And then you end up befriending him, and you convince him to help you out in the Assassin's Creed or whatever, because he's like an insider inside of Nobunaga's court. So now Yasuke is this NPC who's like feeding Naoe information from the inside. He's like an informant, right? And then like something happens, like in the second act or something like that. And Nobunaga finds out that Yasuke has been betraying him and feeding Naoe information or something like that. And so he imprisons Yasuke, or he is disgusted with him and throws him back to the Jesuits like he did in actual history or something like that. But instead of leaving with the Jesuits, he says, "No, I have this friend, that believes in a cause, and I am starting to believe in this cause too. I'm gonna stay here and I'm gonna help her." And so he joins her in the Creed, and they work together. And then at the end of the game, he becomes like a full blown member of the Creed. He gets to talking with the Jesuits or something like that, and turns out that they mean to explore the continent of Africa, because there's been whisperings of an alien, one of the alien artifacts in East Africa or something like that. And then he says, "My homeland is Ghana. I know these areas well. I would like to volunteer and serve my creed, in my own homeland." And then as the credits roll, he is sailing, like, I don't know, from like India to East Africa back home. And then the next game, you play as Yasuke, who reassumes his original African name that he would know, because Yasuke was the name that was given to him, right? And he's in his homeland in Ghana or Mozambique or whatever, and there's a whole game set in Africa. And now the audience is endeared to this guy. He has like this really cool story arc of this man, out of time and place in Japan, who finds his way home, and now he's helping the Creed in his homeland. And now you have a whole game set in Africa. Everything fits, and everybody thinks that Yasuke is this really fucking cool character that they want to play as. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that were the plot, instead of what the lazy, stereotypical, cliched bullshit that they're going with? And by the way, I made that up in like 5 minutes, by the way. And that's the thing, is you're playing on like, what if they have a conversation between Naoi and Yasuke, and Naoi's like, "He treats you like a samurai. Are you samurai?" And then he kind of ponders, and he's like, "I don't know if I am samurai. He seems to respect me, but I still feel as a prisoner, So you could use that ambiguity, which is authentic to reality, and play it into the plot and the relationship that develops between Naoi and Yasuke. It's like, it's so frustrating, chat. It's so frustrating how botched this whole effort seems to be. This Japanese, Assassin's Creed of Japan has been asked for well over a decade. Like, literally since Assassin's Creed 2, people have been like, "Oh my god, like a feudal medieval Japan would be like the greatest, coolest place for a setting for these kinds of assassins." Stuff like that. Ninjas and shinobi and espionage and yada yada yada. The fans of the franchise have been wanting this for over a decade. You had the opportunity. It was right there in your hands, and you just fucked it up. You just completely fucked it up. I'm overqualified to work at Ubisoft. I know. That's why I don't apply there. But the thing is, like, I made that up in like 5 minutes. Give me a day. Give me a day to actually write out the plot. Maybe they're chasing. Maybe like Nobunaga's sword is like actually like an Isu artifact, and the sword is like the thing that they're after. Maybe like the sword is like I've heard this from like another Reddit post, but like the sword is like is using like the same artifact that like gave King Arthur his power with Excalibur, that kind of stuff. So it's like this whatever Inu artifact that's been passed around between cultures, and so that's the artifact that they're after. You know what I mean? And so like Yasuke, which would fit into Yasuke being a retainer for Nobunaga. Like, what if Yasuke was like, knows exactly what he does with that sword and how he keeps it and everything, because he's his retainer. That's literally his job as a retainer. So you could play into that as well. Like, there's so many better things that you can do by actually keeping closer to actual history than instead what Ubisoft has done and just gone with the way of lazy conjecture, whatever. I need some water. So yeah, I'm gonna stop ranting, because the more and more I think about it, the more sad I get about how good this could have been. But the thing is that yes, she's right. It should be allowed to be artistic license, but you have the opportunity to be more than just artistic license. Because that's the thing. If the more accurate you can be to history in a piece of historical fiction like Assassin's Creed, the more impressive the story is, the more clever the story seems to be. Because what you're doing is you're forcing constraint on yourself. Every bit of historical reality that you force yourself to form to means you have to be more creative. So the more restrictions via history you put, and accuracy you put on yourself as a creative, the more creative you have to be. So that's the thing. Like, yeah, okay, you have artistic license to do what you want, but if you just disregard all of history and just do whatever the fuck you want, well, that doesn't come off as creative. That just comes across as lazy. You're not trying. But if you actually like try to take as much historical reality as possible and then weave the fiction into that in a way that doesn't alter that history, that takes talent. That takes effort. That takes actual creative craftsmanship. And it's something that Ubisoft is not willing to do, because again, it seems to be filled with careerists and not craftsmen. And it's something that journalists absolutely loathe. Because game journals are the most laziest, useless, worthless people in the entirety of the gaming space.
None of this is about.
So of course they're going to take the side of like just be lazy. Who cares? Of course that's the side that game journals are going to take, because that's what they are. They're lazy and they don't care. Hey guys, this is your Wandering Hellsman. Thanks for coming aboard. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more, you can watch my news and reaction live streams every Saturday where I stream these videos live, or come on board with me on my various adventures in gaming throughout the week. All streams are at 7 PM Eastern, and I hope to see you again on the next voyage. This has been your Wandering Helmsman speaking. Over and out.